So if your swim time goes over the limit, when you get out of the water, they will pull you out of the race. You're not allowed to continue if your swim time was too long.
In this episode, we will talk about completing a full Ironman triathlon, finishing it in 14 hours, and knowing now you can do anything if you put your mind to it. We'll dive right into Steph West's courageous story, where she knows now when she makes a decision, she goes for it. And knowing what her limitations are, because she's willing to do the half Ironman challenge, but the full, she's good to go. Be sure to listen in for all the details.
Hello, my wonderful beasties. It's Tina, your host. Welcome to the Courageous Inner Beast, the place where you get charged up with courage by calling in your inner beast. Today we have Steph West. Hi, Steph, and it's awesome that you're here joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, what is your one courageous story that you would like to share with us today?
My story is about completing an Ironman triathlon. So I know that that may be something that people have heard of before, but I know that a lot of people don't always understand what that means. So triathlon is three sports, swimming, cycling, and running. And then an Ironman is specific distances of those. So the swimming portion is 2.4 miles. The cycling portion is oh my gosh, now I just forgot. 112 miles. And then the running portion is a marathon. It's 26.2 miles. So that's what an Ironman triathlon is. All three of those together, one after the other.
And do you know already, like I remember when we met before and you told me how much was each, I was like, damn, that's like I'm
Yeah.
so like what got you to doing this challenge for yourself?
It's actually been many years in the making. I've been a triathlete for 10 years. And so in triathlon, just like in running or cycling, there's different distances that you can do. So if you think about running, some people run 5K, some people run 10K, some people run marathons, ultra marathons. It's the same in triathlon. There's different distances that you can do. I've been a runner. I am not athletic or coordinated, but I've been a runner for a long time. And 10 years ago, I had lost my job and I have ADHD. So I was honestly just really bored and understimulated. And I decided I wanted to start doing triathlons because, why not? So I started 10 years ago with just shorter races. And then as the years went on, I just progressed to longer and longer races. And before I did the full Ironman, I had done 3 half Ironman races. So it's literally half of the distances that are in the full. And I just felt like I just wanted to do one full Ironman. They call it one and done. And most people think that that's a joke, that once you do one that you're hooked. It has been very true for me, the one and done. I did mine. It's been a little over a year now since I did my first full, and I have no interest in doing another one. I have done 2 more half Ironmans since then on the other side of the world, and I've done smaller races since then. But for me personally, I don't have interest in doing another full Ironman. So I just get to say that I did it once. I finished. I made the cutoff time. I have my medal. I have my pictures. I have my t-shirt. Yes. And so now I'm back to doing my more medium distance races.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why like one and done, because the amount, like 112 miles, I think that was, I mean, and the 26, I forgot the numbers already, but like, I mean, you're just like, I know it's like an exorbitant amount of miles in all three racing, I mean, running, I think bicycling, and then what's the third one? Swimming? Was it swimming?
Swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can.
Yeah,
But
even me as someone who did it, when I think about it, it's overwhelming. Even as someone who has done that,
yeah.
it's overwhelming. I mean, I was training 20 hours a week,
Yeah.
getting ready for it because you have to be able to build your stamina, you have to build your endurance. It took me, my goal was 14 hours, and it took me 14 hours and 39 minutes. Yeah, so that was, there's actually cutoff times. So there's a total race cutoff time of 17 hours. But every aspect of it has its own cutoff time. And so that's kind of part of the anxiety as well, is that you can't just take your time. You cannot just, spend 30 minutes hanging out in the tent, before you start the run. There's cutoff times that you have to meet, or else you get pulled off the course. And so that's, there's times to consider. There's even things like on the bike, they call it a technical, like if you get a flat tire, if something happens on the bike. A lot of people have issues on the run because it's the end of the race. So it's the hottest part of the race. And then, you're running a marathon after having done everything else that you've just done. So a lot of people have physical issues on the run, blisters, heat exhaustion, stomach issues, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, in that amount of time, there's just so many things that can go sideways.
Yeah, no. Wait, so why is there is the time constraint? Why is there a time constraint?
So 17 hours, if it starts at 7 in the morning, 17 hours later is midnight. And so you've got volunteers out there. You've got, I mean, they have, wherever the race is, they have shut down the roads for people to do the race. I mean, nothing should last more than 17 hours.
Oh, that makes sense. Like
it's now midnight, after 17 hours.
And that makes sense with if you're collaborating with a city, wherever you're doing like you said, the shutting down so many things just so this race could prolong the full 17 hours, if not, well, not more than 17 hours, but and then you mentioned too, if you don't finish it, well, how can you get pulled out of the course if you don't finish it? Or what was it again that you said, if you're hanging out and you're not gung ho, like, hey, you need to go start running again or biking again, then also they'll take you off.
So on the swim, a lot of people have a hard time on the swim because almost all triathletes start as cyclists or runners. Most swimmers don't turn into triathletes. And because of that, a lot of people who do triathlon aren't the strongest swimmers because it's just something that you take on in order to do a triathlon. So if your swim time goes over the limit, when you get out of the water, they will pull you out of the race. You're not allowed to continue if your swim time was too long. And so that's a concern for people who aren't decent swimmers, is that a lot of people develop anxiety because it's open water swimming, which means you're in the ocean or you're in a lake. And so a lot of people can develop anxiety about that. So yeah, I mean, the 2.4 miles, it's just from a time perspective, I think my swim was about an hour and 40 minutes. So just to put some perspective on, that's a horribly long time to be doing anything, let alone swimming, when you can't, it's not like a pool where you can stop and stand up. That's not a thing, right? So you either keep swimming or you stop and float in the water.
Wait, so are you allowed to wear life jackets or floaties?
No, you can't. Depending on the temperature, you can wear a wetsuit, which wetsuits are naturally buoyant. So you're not likely, and I mean, historically speaking, there are people who drown in triathlons. In a wetsuit, that's highly unlikely because wetsuits are buoyant. But you
Yeah.
also, you're swimming. I mean, there could be 2,000 people in a race and everybody's swimming, you know, sometimes they have different waves that start at different times. Sometimes it's a mass start, but I mean, you get clobbered in the water. I mean, you get elbowed, you get kicked, you get hit. I mean, it's just people swimming and, you know, sometimes people just go right over the top of you. So that can happen too. You can get really disoriented if you
Yeah.
catch an elbow to the head or a foot to the face or something. But yeah, so that's the first thing is if the swim takes too long, then when you get out of the water, you get disqualified. And then the same on the bike, if you're on the bike course and you've passed the time limit to be on the bike course, when you finish the bike, they don't let you continue on to the run. And then for people that are on the run, once the time is up, they'll actually, because they can track you on the course and they'll actually pull you off the course so that you're not still out there
How
after
do they measure? Like, for example, the run, like you're so close to the finish line, you're about 60, yeah, you're on the 16th hour, and you have, or maybe 16 and 30 minutes, right? You have 30 more minutes until you hit 17. How do they measure that? How far, yeah, like how far you will reach?
of it. Yeah. So there are timing mats all along the bike and the run course. So every race, there's different increments, but even you can track, if you know somebody who's racing, you can open the app and track them and literally see them on the map, like where they are, because they're going over timing mats. And so sometimes they'll pull you off the course. A lot of the run courses are multiple loops because it's such a long distance. So a lot of them are loops. So for example, if you're finishing your second loop and they already know that there's no way you're going to finish your third on time, they might pull you off the course. The other thing is you may still be able to finish, but you're considered disqualified because you went over the time. So when I did a half Ironman, I actually did one in Hawaii with some friends of mine, and there were 4 of us that went, and 2 of my friends, that's what happened to them. They finished the race, but their time was too long, and so they were allowed to finish, but they were considered like DNQ did not qualify, or DNF did not finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely an experience. It's the time to train was really intense. I also had to hire a nutritionist because I just knew there was no way I could do something like that without kind of revamping my nutrition. So that was a whole other thing that I was dealing with, was the amount that I had to eat on a daily basis. And then on the rate, if anybody understands kind of, you know, carbs and things like that, during the race, my plan was to consume 60 carbs an hour. That is so much. Like it's
60
so
carbs, 60 grams.
60 grams of carbs an hour.
Oh my, an hour?
An hour, yeah. And so you do the same thing when you're doing your long trainings, you know, because in the weeks before, you're riding 100 miles every weekend, and you know, the running isn't as long, but you're running 3 hours on the weekends. And so you're having to take in the same thing, you know, 60 grams of carbs an hour. So there's all kinds of supplements and powders and gels and, you know, all kinds of stuff that you can use, because it's not like you can sit down and eat something real, you know.
Wait, so so during the 14-hour, how did you, during the Ironman, the full Ironman, how did you intake nutrient?
Different people have different systems, so everybody has to figure out what works best for them. For me, I did a mix of powder in my water, so a specific powder that's made for that, and then gel packs that are made for endurance training. so I did a mix of those. And then on the run portion of it, I really like these like waffle things. Again, they're made for endurance sports. So everybody just has to find what works for them. Some people some people drink Coke because it's very high in carbs. I don't do soda, and I can't imagine that. Some people do, salt is also a big thing, especially if it's hot, because you sweat too much and then you end up without enough salt in your body. So some people eat chips. I know some people that eat like Fig Newtons. People honestly kind of consume whatever works for them. I personally went with the powder in my water, and then the gel packs. The gel packs are small, and so they're really easy to carry on you. And then on your bike, you carry your own water on your bike, so you can put anything in it that you need to. But yeah, that was my plan. I actually, when I got to the run, my stomach was so done with all of the carbs that I could not take in anything else. My stomach just it shut down. And so I ran the marathon with no nutrition. I just physically could not put anything else in my body. And I'm in Texas. The race I did was in Texas, so it was warm. And I kept trying to drink water. And after about 2 hours, I couldn't even drink water anymore. I actually thought that my body was going to shut down at some point, because at that point, I had already gone 12 hours of racing. And now I'm trying to finish this race without water, without nutrition, without carbs. I thought my body was just going to shut down at some point, to be honest. I was just waiting for that I was running, just waiting for my body to just stop. And that never happens. I was able to finish, and I was able to cross the finish line. But it was about 6 weeks before I wanted anything to do with sugar and carbs, to be honest. Like, my stomach just was so over it. It really was about 6 weeks before I had any kind of desire for anything that was carby or sugary.
Wait, so what did you eat during so before, like 6 weeks? So what did you eat right after then?
After the race?
Yeah.
I actually, I always imagined, I'm a very emotional person. I imagined that when I crossed the finish line, I would just be so overwhelmed with emotion, right? And anytime I would imagine it, I could picture myself crying. I was done. Like, when I crossed the finish line, I was done. Like, the smile on my face was pretend. I had teammates and friends there, and I was pretending like every part of my body hurt. I didn't want anybody to touch me. I didn't want anybody to talk to me. Like, I just wanted to leave. I was so done.
You're ready to go home.
Yeah. And it's out of town. So I was staying in a hotel, and I had a friend that had gone with me. And so we went back to the hotel, and then of course you have to walk back, so I'm like walking back to the hotel, and he had ordered, I think I had told him ahead of time what I wanted him to order for room service or whatever. And so it came, and I just had no desire to eat. But then you also know that your body needs food, right? Like, you just went through this really difficult ordeal. Like, your body needs food. And so I kind of force fed myself like about half of the food that I had ordered, because I knew that I needed to eat, but oh man, I did not want to. And so, yeah, the end of that race, in hindsight, after about a week, I was able to realize how proud I was of myself for, the other thing about that race is the bike part of it was really, really windy, which makes you have to work harder, and it makes you go slower. And the typical rate of people who start an Ironman and then don't finish it is about 9%. So it depends on the race, but it depends on the weather, or it depends on the road conditions. But typically about 9% of people who start the race at some point along the way don't finish. Either they went over their time, they had issues on the swim, issues on the bike, whatever. In this particular race, it was 21%. 21% of people who started did not finish. And a huge part of that was the bike course. It was just so windy. And so anybody who was not, cycling's my strong point. Anybody who's not a strong cyclist, you just wouldn't have made it. I mean, it was, there were times I just wanted to cry. And again, it's 112 miles. It's not like you can fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You know,
And was there like a lot of hills or just like more?
The one that I did was not super hilly. It was actually on an expressway that they had shut down for the race. So you're just riding on an open expressway, but it was so windy. I mean, it just there after the race, there were all kinds of memes going around about it, like just about, like memes with like freight trains. And I mean, it was really bad. So people who were not strong cyclists or people who had a really hard time on the swim and had used a lot of their energy. Yeah. There were people all along the side of the highway that just had stopped and they were just sitting on the side of the highway. Like, I'm out, I'm done.
Yeah. And like you said, it's kind of like you have to pace yourself throughout the whole 3 sections. Cause if you, like you said, if you go too strong in the swim, your endurance for biking is not gonna go well, and then it's gonna slow you down for the run too at the very end.
Absolutely. And it's so because I'm a decent cyclist, I typically kind of go all out on the bike, which on a shorter race is fine. Like I can do that on a shorter race. On this race, because of the conditions, I definitely went too hard on the bike because my whole goal was just to be done with it. It was so difficult. I was just like trying to be done with it as soon as possible. The bike portion was 7 hours. 7 hours, like
112 miles.
And that's not like riding a bike in the park, right? That's like racing, 7 hours of racing on a bike. And so when I got to the run, I had a hard time on the run because I had pushed so hard on the bike. And so if I were to ever do another one again, I know that I would need to adjust myself a bit, but it doesn't matter because I'm not doing another one. So
yeah, like I'm good.
But yeah, I've now done, after that race, I've done 3 more half Ironmans since that time. So I did the one in Hawaii, and I did one in New Zealand and one in Australia. So I'm still a triathlete. I'm still racing. I'm still doing half Ironman distances. But yeah, I think that was my one and only full Ironman.
Do you know, at the top of your knowledge, like that's the most strenuous, like for you?
There are also ultra Ironmans and ultra triathlon. I guess they're not. Ironman is the brand name. It's kind of like Kleenex. It's a brand name. There are ultra triathlons that stretch over like 3 days. So yeah, you do a certain part of it each day. I don't know the distances for those, but I do know that they exist, and yeah, that's nuts.
I have no words for that because I mean, I remember you said that in the very beginning too. You just said you are not much of an athlete. So what, or encourage you or influence you to do this? Just not even just the full Ironman, but I guess like everything you tried so far.
I think I have a very driven personality. I also really like challenging myself. I really like to see, I wonder if I can do that. And so that's, like I run 2 businesses. I speak 4 languages. I like to challenge myself, especially if I think that there's something that I can't do. I like to kind of see if I can. And so I think with the triathlons, it was just once I got to one level, it was like, oh, I wonder if I can do the next level. Oh, I wonder if I can do, but now I'm good. Like now I know that I can, and I'm good. You know, I don't feel the need to keep trying to prove anything. But I also, the thing that I really love about triathlon is it shows me that I can always do more than I think I'm capable of. And I really would love to live my life more so like how I do triathlon, because I have a training plan and it'll show me every day, like, okay, here's what you're going to do today. And there's some days that I'm like, I'm not capable of doing that, but then I'll go try it and I'm like, what do you know? Like I am capable of doing that. And so I think it's been a great experience for me in terms of just really understanding what I am capable of and what is possible. And I also think it's a great testament to having a coach and having a program and listening to people who've done this before and listening to people who do it more successfully than you. I think anytime you do something new, I think those elements are really important if you want to get better faster. Right.
Yeah.
So, I really like to think that I can do everything by myself. I'm a very independent person. But I've learned in business, it was really a struggle until I started learning from other people. The same with triathlon. I hired a coach because I'm like, I don't know how to do a full Ironman. I've never done that. So I think that's a big life lesson too, is learning from people that have already done what you're trying to do, or people who are just more successful at it than you. I think it's, sometimes we want to try to do everything on our own, but it just ends up taking a lot longer.
Yeah. And what you said makes sense of it doesn't hurt to ask for help, even like just to have an idea of what it is. Because like you said, it takes longer if you're researching, looking it up, and you could already be done right now, or not done right now, but already starting sooner
Right.
than later if you had like a mentor or a coach, someone who's already familiar with it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I totally agree with that. And overall, just thank you for sharing your story. It's mind blowing for me. Even when we talked earlier, I still feel like you said that our body is capable of anything. Just push a little bit, we can do it. And so, yeah, and thank you so much. So I was curious, like, what is your one takeaway that would want to share with our audience today?
I think it's when anybody has an idea of something that they want to do or try, I believe that idea was specifically downloaded into your brain from the universe. I really do. I don't think we get ideas that are not meant for us. And so I think when you get an idea like, oh, I might kind of be interested in doing that, I think you need to go for it. I think and sometimes it's what's the one thing that you can do to commit to that? So for triathlon, sign up for that race, right? Like now you're committed, now you're in. If it's starting a business, register that business. Starting a podcast, like record your first episode. I mean, I think whatever it is, when you have an idea of something, figure out what your first step is and do it. Right. And then you can find other people to learn from and you can grow along the way. But I think it's being able to listen to the ideas that we have. And then I'm a very impulsive person and I really love that. I love just, all right, take the first step, do it, right? Figure it, and then we'll figure it out along the way.
Oh, that is wise words. I definitely do. It's like you said, just sometimes just be impulsive and just do it because
Just do it.
Because if you think too much, like you're sucking yourself out from everything.
Yes.
And so no,
yes, that's why I love my impulsivity, because I don't give myself time to get into worry and anxiety, right? If I have an idea, I'm like, oh, do it. All right, it's done.
It's already done, and now all I have to do
Yeah.
is move forward and then keep going with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so often we talk ourselves out of things, right?
yeah.
So just, yep, click the button, do it.
Thank you, Steph, for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure just hearing your story and hearing the more knowledge of what's behind Ironman too. It's like anyone could do it at any age, like no matter what. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. You can just do it. And so thank you again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening in. And if you want to learn more about Steph West, please check out in the description for more information and the links. And please leave a review wherever you're listening and look out for new episodes every Tuesday on the Courageous Inner Peace.